broken system, chained and tangled up in lies. Voices shouting, screaming in defeat. Politicians playing games under darkened skies. Hope lost in the dust of the street. Red and blue, colors pouring from the sky. Debates turn to anger, the crowd gets loud. Punches flying in the blink of an eye. Truth buried deep beneath the shroud. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Faces on the screen, flashing perfect teeth. But behind those eyes, just rotting greed. Politicians turn to whispers beneath. They all just get what they need. Whispering conspiracies, drowning in their lies. Echoes of freedom, lost in cries. Spin the wheel of fate, let's see who rise. But this game will bleed you dry. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Welcome to the bullpen, where the weak will survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive.
Good morning and welcome to the bullpen. It
We
is
get audio.
September
Yay.
15th. I can't hear Chad, so we're going to
Oh,
have
no.
to do the reload thing because we were using EVMux this morning. So I'm going to reload and let Chad
All right.
get this thing kicked off.
Well, since everyone else can hear me, I'm going to go ahead and tell her. All right. So we had a fun-filled week for our show where we had our debate stream. So hopefully you guys have already watched that or were part of it live. And now we're going to kind of talk about the repercussions, other things coming out. There's a lot of news that has been breaking post-debate, and if they're coming for the cats.
Yeah. I think it's funny that they're going so hard on the cats and pets stuff when really all it has done is called attention to the immigration issue and what's going on in different places where they've just overwhelmed the population.
It's funny because Trump has done this since 2016. He says something hyperbolic, like to the point where people are clutching pearls over it, and so they decide to try to fact check him and prove him wrong, and they end up bringing attention to the thing that helps him anyway. So
right.
He says the thing about the cats and the pets, and we get all the funny memes and all the stuff about it. That dominates. I mean, Kamala, as for his, and we're going to talk about her getting fed the questions and some of the other things, for as strong, quote unquote, her performance was. The only thing anyone has been talking about from that debate has been Trump and the cats and the Haitians in Springfield.
Yeah, that's what went viral from the debate, and good or bad, it's at least calling attention to stuff. And it's Trump. Trump got the soundbite. Well, the other thing people are talking about is how crazy she looked through the whole thing.
Yeah, and Low Spec is right, because you start looking into it because you have the questions about if they're eating the pets.
Right.
And then you're like, and then they're fact checking. They're not eating the pets, but they're taking jobs, they're taking government benefits, they're destroying this, they're murdering people left and right on the roads. I mean, I don't even know how many traffic incidents news I was researching it too. I'm sure Brahma, you saw this. They've killed like dozens of people. They overturned a school bus once, like, and killed a small child, which
Yeah.
led to a weird soundbite from the parents of that kid, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, that one was weird.
Where he
I
was like,
wish it was a white guy who
I
did it.
wish it was a 60-year-old white kid who had white guy who had killed my kid. And I was like, that is the wrong take.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're upset that a Haitian man, just an innocent immigrant, was the one who did it because
By
the book
driving
will
on
be
the
thrown at
wrong
them,
side
but a
of the
white man
road.
would have just gotten away with it.
Dude, that is some serious brain rot.
It
Chad, if you can
is.
bring your volume up just a little bit.
I think it had checked the auto gain control. Is that better?
We'll see. Yeah, so I mean, even before the pets thing, there were already a whole bunch of videos that were coming out on YouTube that were basically just showing all the traffic incidents. They gave all these people, the ability to drive, although none of them know how to drive, none of them know
You
what
know the
insurance
process they have to
is.
do, right? They get a piece of paper that gives them 90 days to drive without a license. They just sign a thing that they know how to drive and they get to do it. And then after 90 days, they go back to the DMV and they just renew it. No driving
Right.
test,
No
no rules
insurance.
of the road tests, no insurance requirements. They basically just sign a form that self attests that they can drive.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's videos all over YouTube of them, somebody just hitting somebody and then just driving away because they don't have any understanding of how our laws work. Or if they stick around, you know, nothing's happening, and they don't have the insurance to cover the people that are getting hit. So everybody is driving around with damaged cars because they just keep getting their car hit by people who don't know how to drive.
Well,
So yeah,
and there
it's
was a
a
young
it's a drain
man
on
who was
resources.
there was a young man who was interviewed, and he said, like, my insurance has gone up over $100 in the last month because I guess they just the insurance companies just keep raising the price. They're like, listen, you live in a place where a lot of people are crashing cars, so it's that, we got to spread that cost out among all the people we insure.
Well, you've got two different things happening. If you've got injuries in it and the other person doesn't have insurance, then your uninsured or underinsured motorist is covering it,
Hmm.
or PIP, depending on which state you're in, the personal injury protection. And then you've also got, if people are turning in claims on their vehicle for the collision coverage, then the insurance company's having to pay out on that too, with no real chance of subrogating against those people, which means they can't recover the money from them because obviously none of these people have any money. So yeah, that causes rates to go up. Not to mention insurance in general is just going skyrocketing across the country. I mean, I deal with it every day. So it's those kinds of drains on resources and more increased costs it's not artificial, but it didn't have to happen, that people are feeling in the country right now. And yeah, that is what is getting the attention if you look into it deeper after the whole pets thing. The pets thing was kind of just a semi funny line that we all kind of thought, he may not have needed to say that during the debate, but it is what's turned into the talking point for good or for better or for worse. I think for better, because people are going to start seeing these reports, because all the Sunday morning shows was them just trying to hammer JD Vance on this morning, and basically he said, yeah, it's not just this, it's everything. It's the idea that they're just throwing 20,000 Haitians into a city of 53 to 57,000. I mean, that's a third of your population just boomed into being a whole bunch of people that haven't assimilated at all.
Yeah, and like, it's a completely different culture at that point.
Yeah,
Like, this
well,
is like when I
it's
joined the military, right? You get into boot camp, and I mean, I don't care where you're from in America, you probably get some culture shock. Just just going to boot camp, meeting people from all over the country, all sorts of places you've never been to. Um, and there's a lot of friction. Like people fight in boot camp. It is not a happy place because you got to get used to each other.
Yeah. Well, and you've got to get used to working with one another after the initial
Hmm.
shock.
Yeah, and
So
that's
yeah,
that's incredibly closely supervised, and usually with a division of less than 100 individuals. Try doing that with tens of thousands now.
yeah. The one thing that I would say about it is, especially on Twitter, we need to be a little bit more careful about what we share because nobody's vetting half of this crap. So you are getting a whole bunch of misinformation out there with real information, and that doesn't help anything either.
I like to stick to the AI generated memes because at
Yeah,
least then you know it's silly and goofy.
yeah, like our
Like,
thumbnail this morning that
yeah,
everybody found quite disturbing.
yeah, like or like cats gearing up for war.
Mm-hmm. Trump,
Elon and Trump dancing down the street to save the cats. All that
Trump
good
running
stuff.
away with a duck and a cat in his arms.
Yeah. Um it's a lot. It is the like the he has telegraphed his position. You say something hyperbolic, get attention, then it may be factually overblown, but it is directionally accurate. What he's saying is the problems in spring, like all you. Oh, so now we're resorting. Like, sure, the Haitians have destroyed Springfield as a city in terms of their economics, their their facilities, and all these other things. But maybe they didn't actually kill cats that we know of. You've spent it
But they
now.
did wreck a whole bunch of cars.
But they did wreck and murder. They did kill people. They have destroyed the infrastructure. There is footage of people just talking about how terrible the city, like you put a city of 60,000 and influx 20,000 migrants.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we did get the epic Swalwell losing
yeah,
his mind in the congressional hearing, so that was perfect.
yeah.
Love watching Swalwell lose his mind when it's like, dude, you slept with Fang Fang. Shut up. Nobody cares about what you think.
You think that she I got to figure out how to do the do maybe some AI face replacement to do the from the hot chick with hey Ling Ling, you forgot your bling bling for Eric Swalwell.
Or the one that came out yesterday with that Perry Chan had done with X-Ray Girls over
Yeah.
the Chinese prostitute or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big thing that came out of the debate, of course, as we've all seen multiple places now, is somebody on the left decided to try to turn the whole thing into a meme song that was supposed to be a dig at Trump, and the right immediately flipped around that song and started creating videos with it and memes of their own with it, and that guy got pissed, and I find that hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, you can't you made a dance beat that slaps, and you didn't think that people would
They're
you're
eating the cats. They're eating the
eating.
dogs. They're eating the cats. The cats.
This is one of those things where sometimes people don't understand what we've talked. I talked to and on the show before we've talked about how visuals when the mics are muted matter because sometimes people are just looking at a clip, the audio is real low or it's muted and they don't see it. That's why Kamala all day long on that debate stage making ex-wife face
Yeah.
was not good because there's a lot, especially older. I don't know if people have older people, relatives in their lives. They don't always hear things very clear. So they may have even been a lot of times some of the elderly will have subtitles. They'll just watch captioned, you know,
Right.
stuff. So if they're just looking at the visual, all you're seeing is Kamala making those faces. You're not hearing the voice. I mean, it's a show. She's not likable. I saw some analysis where someone was explaining that she has that very nasally voice,
Yeah.
and that is just a subconsciously grating voice pattern, and so that there's people will just are going to end up independents and such are just going to choose not to vote because they just can't deal with
Don't want
hearing her
4
for 4
years of
years.
listening to her.
Yeah, I would put the nasally voice only like one half step above the upward inflection at the end of every single statement that a
Yeah.
lot of these people do.
Yeah, or the California vocal fry, LI.
I wish I was back in Cali, man.
Yeah. Bush shared this. I don't know if it's true, but
Hi, Boosh.
social worker received 1.2 million to move 20,000 Haitians into rural Ohio.
Let's see. National Youth Advocate Project was awarded. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that. So there's a lot of money in migrants, and
Yeah.
not and a lot of it is done through what's called NGOs, which are non-governmental organizations. So if you ever hear the term NGO, that's what they're talking about. Catholic Charities is a massive NGO that makes oodles, whatever descriptive word you want to say, money off settling migrants into the United States. They get the government contracts to bring them in, house them, move them. That's one of the reasons why the movements are so difficult to track, is because the government won't necessarily always make the bookings themselves. They'll just give money to these charity groups who will then bus, fly by train, whatever, the migrants into different destinations.
And we've seen this happen before. I mean, we saw it with the Somalians. They basically went in and took over full cities. And it was
Minnesota.
all the government sending them to one place to keep their community intact rather than assimilation.
It's an
And that's how you
interesting.
get an
Yeah.
Ilhan Omar.
It's also like Minnesota used to be competitive on the state level for Republicans. There were Republican governors, you could get Republican senators, and you had a decent amount of Republican congressmen. Now, on the federal level for the presidential election, Minnesota has always been a little pretty much blue. But you can, it's not crazy to point out that just like California used to be a solid red state on an electoral basis.
So is Colorado.
So California was the beta test. People forget Reagan was a governor of California. Nixon was a governor of California. They were solidly red. They put Republican senators into office. They started importing migrants into California, and it started shifting the demographics and the election results. So Pete Wilson was the last governor that really tried to put a fight against this. They did a proposition to ban state benefits to illegal immigrants. And that proposition passed like 80-20. It was overwhelmingly voted in the early 90s, and then it got overturned at the court level, saying it was unconstitutional.
Right.
And then the runaway train just happened because because of that decision, it opened the floodgates to paying state benefits to illegal immigrants, and became a magnet.
Yeah, the damage was already done.
Yep. And then so California turns into a third world shithole, at least in the cities. And Kamala was there for that. Good for her.
Look at the not cities. It's all red everywhere else in the state.
Yeah, but I was going to say, and this is an interesting thing because California might have been the beta test. Virginia was the second one, because Virginia actually beat Colorado by a little bit of going full blue. And people who haven't lived in, Slender also resided here, so he could see it. But Virginia used to be a deep red state.
Dude, there's a reason I moved 20 miles down the road. It was enough to get me over state lines.
So instead of in Virginia, they didn't import necessarily Mexican migrants exclusively. By the time they were going after Virginia, they opened up more of the doors, right? There were more El Salvadorians in the county I grew up in than any other part of the country. We had an El Salvadorian consulate next to an Outback Steakhouse because there was so much volume of work to do in this county. And and then immediately we got MS-13. Like in the late 90s, MS-13 started going crazy here in Virginia. There's all sorts of crazy cases where they were decapitating and doing terrible things. But they imported enough voters that they started pushing things. And
Right.
here's the fun thing, they don't have to get a ton to just tip the scale enough, because once Democrats get in power, they might only have it by one seat, but they act like they have an 80-20 ruling majority and they will pass everything.
Yeah,
So
the
between
Democrats,
the
if you've got a one-seat majority, you've got a mandate.
yeah, so before Aaron Ratliff says they imported carpetbaggers. That yeah. So first was the government workers coming in, and then they imported the immigrants. And by that amount, by with those people in there, by the mid 2000s, Virginia was a problem and tipped blue. That's when we started getting senator. All our entire Senate was blue. Our congressional delegation started flipping blue, and then they won the state level. And for a little bit, we held out the state house, but as soon as they flipped that, they passed, everything, and it's been a real problem. The only thing that's helped like Youngkin win was that Virginia's governor elections are off year,
Right.
so there's no presidential election. So Virginia's governor election is always the year after the presidential. So people are usually kind of burnt out and they don't vote in the same numbers. So you can slip a Republican into the governor's mansion. But
Yeah.
Well, and
yeah,
Virginia was one of those places I noticed. Um, so much money was coming in from New York, like so much money, and that might be something like this at the federal level needs to be looked at, because why do billionaires from New York have any interest in how the elections go at the state level in Virginia? And
For
why
the
should they
same
be
reason that
even
George Soros
allowed?
is putting in district attorneys.
Yeah, it like there are some problems that need to be addressed very directly, because the whole point of state level elections is so that the state can, elect the people to represent their will. If billionaires from New York are putting millions upon millions of dollars into Virginia, well, what's he got an interest in electing there? Someone to represent his will? A non-citizen?
Yeah. And in Colorado, it happened differently. We legalized pot, and that's what drew everybody from everywhere that was crazy to come out here, because we were the first state that legalized the medicinal marijuana. And suddenly, you've got overwhelming numbers coming in from out of state to participate in that new law, and that
yep,
ended up changing the voting demographic of Colorado.
yep. Colorado was the plan B of like, because Colorado, as nice as it is, didn't necessarily have the benefits or the like. There's a lot of state, like a lot of work in Virginia from the government that you can import and get people to come in and start doing. Colorado wasn't as much of a magnet to just be overwhelmed by illegal numbers.
Right.
But like Brahma said, once they gave, if you can't do that, you give an incentive to attract the whack doodles,
Yeah.
and then
Here,
one
you can do drugs here.
And then, just like I said, what happened in Virginia, as soon as they had the slightest majority, you can see they started passing other shit stuff. And Denver became a sanctuary city, and Boulder, and all this,
Older.
and they started.
Awesome one's right
Yeah.
about that. That's why I lived in Northern Virginia. I had a job in DC. It sucked, but I mean, there's a lot of money there. Obviously,
Yep.
they're taking it from everywhere else in the country.
And sane people don't live in DC. They live
No,
outside of
no,
it.
no. You one, the traffic; two, the crime; three, just the people in general.
But that's also a reason that Virginia starts flipping, is because most of the people that can't afford to live in DC but work in DC are going to be living in Virginia or
Well,
surrounding areas.
it wasn't just, it was also because people fled southern Maryland, like Montgomery County
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
Silver Spring, like those areas. Maryland was always a Democratic stronghold. And what do you know? Their taxes started getting gargantuanly high and all this stuff. So people would move just over the river from the Potomac into the Virginia side, and they brought their politics with them, even though they were trying to get away from the taxes. It was,
Yeah, which is what we're worried about with Texas, although I think Texas is more fortified than they think. Kind of like Florida. I mean, they're still trying to say that Florida's got a chance to still go purple. And it's like,
um,
after that midterm election, I don't see where you see any hope that
yeah.
Florida's flipping anytime soon.
To
That was
Aaron's
a
point,
beatdown.
yeah, to Aaron's point here, Nashville is a concern because Tennessee is a bastion of good red solid politics,
Right.
and Nashville is importing so many people so fast who don't necessarily agree with things. They got to keep an eye on that. And
That's what
but the
happens when you've got the entertainment industry getting involved in a city.
Yeah, there is an old thing that you can do though, right? The best way to stay a red state is to govern like a red state. And one of the reasons that Florida has gotten more red under DeSantis is he started passing laws that are more conservative, and people just, as what was it, Trump used to say, they will self deport. People
Yeah.
self deport, like people who are like, I can't agree with this, I'm gonna leave. Go, okay. So they
Yeah.
Good.
In the same way that they're getting out of California because they're governing like Democrats or New York. I mean, some of there are plenty of people that are leaving those states, like say Gary from Nerdrotic, that are leaving it for the right reason and definitely won't be taking their, the politics of the left into the new state. There's people that are just trying to flee, and we saw that with lots of big names getting out of California because it was just untenable to have a business base there. You saw the
Yep.
Daily Wire get out. You saw Dave Rubin and locals get out. You saw just tons of people fleeing that
I
Dude,
we
there's
know
talk
we're
of
not
Hollywood
going
in
to.
general leaving California at this point.
Well,
Because
Hollywood
nothing's
doesn't,
done
they
in
can't afford it.
California anyway.
they don't really make much in California anymore. They
No,
shoot
it's
things.
all Georgia now, right?
No, well, actually, a lot of it is
Georgia, Oregon.
London because they get giant
Yeah.
tax credits from the English government.
Yep.
Australia still gives them tax credits. It's wherever they get the best tax deal. So Georgia has, as states go, one of the most generous tax credit systems for Hollywood productions, which is why you always see that Georgia peach at the end of all the Marvel movies because they shoot all their stuff at what used to be Pinewood Studios, Georgia, but now is the one that Chick-fil-A owns. They
Yeah.
renamed it, which is why they're starting a streaming service.
Yep. Oddly enough.
All of this is, getting back to the analysis of what is, this is what that's why you don't trust anything. I mean, obviously the viewers of this show are going to be more inclined not to, but when Kamala gets up there and gives platitudes about we're going to close the border and Trump, my favorite thing, when Trump killed the bipartisan border deal, that still would have allowed 4,500 people to cross illegally a day before it even kicked in any enforcement.
I was going to say, at this point, whenever they say that there was something bipartisan that the Democrats came up with that got killed, I assume it's because you're telling me one thing in the bill that's good and forgetting to tell me the 999 things that are also in that same bill that are awful.
Especially if you name it something like the border security bill. You know
Yeah.
it's not about border security.
Or the
I mean,
Inflation
not only were they going
Reduction
to
Act.
not only did that bill allow 4,000, 4,500 in per day before anything kicked in, it entrenches that into law, which then you have to have another law to actually overturn that. So you're basically saying, yeah, the law is we're letting 4,500 in. The other part of that bill was major spending towards Ukraine and Israel again, sending multiple billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars to those two different wars, and nobody was for that on the Republican side at that point. I mean, either give a clean border bill or don't. And even if the border bill was letting people in, have a vote on the border bill, not on let's fund Ukraine some more. Let's fund Israel some more.
Well, and
And
I
you may
mean,
agree with
Ukraine is
funding
now
those
launching
things, but do that
incursions
separately.
into Russia, right? They don't need our help anymore. And honestly, Israel never needed our help in the first place. If we would just let them do what they got to do and shut our damn mouths about it, they
Well,
could.
they needed us to sell them arms, and that's all we should have been doing.
But that's all we ever need to do with
But we
Israel.
were
Like they
also
can
arming
handle
Gaza, so
themselves. Yeah, that's a problem.
yeah, we're funding both sides of every war all the time. And that
I
is
mean,
why
the only thing we should have done with Israel was we should have stepped in and told the rest of the Middle East, if you try to get involved in this shit, we will block you.
which goes to another point in the debate where Kamala basically said that there are no uh, service members in any active combat zone anywhere. I don't know if you guys saw the clip on Twitter of the soldiers watching the debate and then turning around and looking at everybody in the room, going, "Well, what are we doing here then?" Because
Yeah.
yeah, people are deployed to Iraq, they're deployed to Syria, there's Navy sitting in the Red Sea,
Well,
I believe,
she
at the
also
moment.
said none of her no soldiers died on their watch, and I'm like, do we remember the Afghanistan pullout? We lost 13.
I don't remember her saying that one. I remember Biden saying that one, but I don't remember her bringing up no deaths.
I don't know. It's so infuriating. I don't. I swear she said something along those lines during the debate, but she said a lot of things that were pissing me off.
Yeah. And then she's repeated them on the interviews this week. So we'll play a few clips from that interview that she did with local news. I believe it was in Philadelphia. I've got it all clipped up and ready to go. But I wanted to show this one, and hopefully transitioning doesn't mute everybody. Because if it does, then we're in trouble for the rest of the show. But Trump has started playing this video during his rallies.
And as a woman, there's a balance to be struck between being tough and being a bitch. Turn that off.
She's so freaking weird.
I hate it.
I mean, he's using that as a clip for his campaign rallies because it just shows everything about her that everybody hates.
Has she ever
Well, and I mean that's
successfully
the
struck
thing
the
too,
balance?
right? Like I was saying when we were going into the debate, I was like, if she laughs, she loses, and she managed to. For the most part, she didn't laugh.
Well, she was prepared with the questions.
She was.
Yeah.
She knew what was coming and what to say.
Yeah, when they said we haven't sent the questions to either party, I was like, lie. First question, right out the gate, she had a whole prepared speech with a built-in pivot and everything. It's like, no, you at least knew what the questions were going to be about, if nothing else.
Well, that brings us to the affidavit that is being sent around right now from multiple sources. And all we can do is assume that it is real because um, it was a rumor for the past week, but this affidavit was supposedly sent to Mike Johnson and a few others before the debate as proof of what would happen during the debate. So let's have a look at that. So ABC News worker, whistleblower, basically saying that, let's see, we want the actual pages where it says, yeah. No questions regarding the perceived health of Joe Biden. No inquiries related to her tenure as Attorney General in San Francisco. No questions concerning her brother-in-law, Tony West, who faces allegations of embezzling billions of dollars in taxpayer funds and who may be involved in her administration if elected. Then there's a few more. So basically, insurance policy on when it was sent. And then there were a few other lines, weren't there, Chad?
Let's see, because I think let me see if Benny's one has, because I know one of the posts they said they accidentally left a page out. So
Yeah, I think this one's missing the page where it said all the different rules about the only allowed to fact check one
Um,
side.
And this is part of what I've been bringing up with regards to the whole Trump being convicted of election fraud stuff, like misappropriation of election funds 36 times or whatever. I'm like, you know, every single candidate in my lifetime has been found guilty of that exact same thing, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, both found guilty of it. And what were they told? They were told, we're not taking this to court, but you got to pay that money back. That's always what it's been. Like, hey, you're not supposed to spend your money that way. You got to pay that back. It's never been, hey, we're convicting you and sending you to prison. That only happened with Trump. So
Right.
they violated precedent for all of this.
Brahma, I found the
And-
additional pages if you want.
Well,
to
and I
them.
found the line on this one that I wanted to go through. Additionally, for further investigation, I have secretly recorded several conversations that will prove that the Harris campaign insisted upon not only the fact checking of Donald Trump, but also insisted on what questions were not to be asked under any circumstances, or else the Harris campaign would decline to participate in the debate. Let's remove this one and bring up the one that you've got.
Yep. So this one we have the Harris campaign received particular accommodations, but not including but not limited to providing the podium of significance smaller than used by Donald Trump and assurances regarding split screen television views that would favorably impact Kamala's appearance because she is significantly shorter. So
Which we
they
know
framed.
happened.
They used a lot of forced perspective in that debate.
So they definitely, and the way they framed the split screen, they moved it so that she was the even, like, height wise with him. They, and this is the part we're talking. It was agreed that Donald Trump would be subjected to fact checking during the debate, while Kamala Harris would not face comparable scrutiny. This was widely known throughout the company that Donald Trump would be fact checked. In fact, various people were assigned to fact checked observations it was perceived candidate Trump would make during the debate. So this explains the immediate there's no state in the country where late term abortion is legal, this, all that. Various people were assigned to fact check the. In fact, Harris campaign required assurances that Donald Trump would be fact checked. This was done via multiple communications with the Harris campaign, whereas the Trump campaign was not included in any of these negotiations. To my understanding, any rules negotiations and conversations pertaining to the debate should have had both the Trump and Harris campaign involved. The Harris campaign had numerous more calls regarding the debate rules without the Trump campaign even aware of these calls. The Harris campaign was provided with sample questions that, while not the exact questions, covered similar topics that would appear during the debate. So, we changed a couple words. So it's
Getting
not
around that Donna Brazil thing.
Furthermore, the Harris campaign imposed restrictions on the scope of questioning to include, I think, all right, so these are the ones that you already covered, right? No.
Yeah, I think we covered the rest of it.
So it was this other page that was missing where basically they got the sample questions that were basically the questions for the debate. They were the ones who made sure to emphasize Trump had to have real-time fact checking, and no one was to do that to Kamala, even though she immediately dropped whopper after
Bush
whopper.
just made a comment about Kamala lied about Charlottesville, Jan 6, convictions, immigration, crime, and economy, and was not corrected. And here's the funny thing. She did all that in one statement. Like 1 2-minute interval, she covered all those lies.
And knew that she wasn't going to be called on it.
Well, when her sorority sister is one of the people on the podium, on the stage, delivering questions, and the entire network is being run by her BFF, who introduced her to her husband that she's been besties with for 20 plus years, Dana Walton. This reminds me a lot of Donna Brazil, because I know someone pointed out, and when I was looking at Twitter, they were like, this was exactly the same denial CNN put out, like before,
during the Clinton
about
Trump
the Clinton
debate.
one, before the Donna Brazil admitted she gave the questions in advance.
Yep. And Donna Brazil has faced nothing for doing that. I mean, she may have lost her job there, but she's then been brought on to. She was brought on to Fox after that. She's no longer at Fox. I think I can't remember where she's settled now, but I mean, she's had multiple jobs since then.
The Murdochs hate Trump, so it makes sense.
Yeah, but it was kind of like when Kellyanne Conway got brought on to whatever network she did, and they all revolted immediately. So let's take a look at some of the clips from the interview that Kamala Harris sat down for, because it's the first time she's done a solo interview, and yeah, she basically proves she is not capable of doing this job.
She is who we thought she was.
Yeah. We'll watch at least the first two questions because it's pretty hilarious. She literally answers the second question with the first question for the most part. So
could decide the outcome of this presidential election. Yeah. You hear it more than I do. People want to know more about you and about your specific plans. At the debate the other night, you talked about creating an opportunity economy.
That's an awful
I wonder if we could drill down on that a little bit. When we talk about bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people, what are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid.
Duh.
My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first house when I was a teenager.
This sounds really familiar.
I grew up in a community of hardworking people, construction workers,
what was it,
nurses and teachers.
70s rock fan who
I
reminded us
that
that,
may not have
that
had
she
the
grew
same
up in the
experience,
part of Montreal that Trudeau lived in and was not middle class at all.
I grew up in a
like
neighborhood of folks who were very proud of their lawn.
Oh, there it is.
And I was raised to believe and to know that all people deserve dignity.
Very familiar
And
from
that
the debate.
We as Americans have a beautiful
It's the hand
character.
gestures too.
She's
have so canned on these hand gestures.
And aspirations and dreams, but not everyone necessarily has
She's familiar with that
access to the resources that can help them fuel those dreams and ambitions. So when I talk about building an opportunity
I really wish
economy,
HBO had
it
just
is
done a
very
different kind
much
of
with the
reboot
mind
for
of
Veep than the DEI
investing
version.
in the ambitions and aspirations and the incredible work ethic of the American people, and creating opportunity for people, for example, to start a small business. My mother, worked long hours, and
None
our
of this
neighbor
explains
helped raise us.
anything
We used to call
of the
her,
question,
I
yes.
still call her our second mother.
Right.
She was a small business owner. I love our small business owners. I learned who they are from my childhood.
But
and
that's the
she
same thing
was
that happened during the debate, too.
a community leader. She hired locally. She
I swear to God,
mentored.
in the
Our small
reporter's
businesses
brain,
are so
he's
much
probably
part of the
thinking,
fabric
bitch,
of
just
our
tell me how
communities, not to
groceries are going to
mention,
get cheaper.
Really, I think the backbone of America's economy.
I mean, that's what I've been
So my
thinking.
opportunity economy plan includes giving startups a $50,000 tax deduction
I know that we've talked about
to
this
start their small
before,
business. It used to
but
be
I swear to
$5,000.
God,
Nobody
I
can
bet
start a small
all of us are
business with
thinking of
$5,000.
Billy Madison right now.
But investing
Yep.
in people's innovative ideas
Chat.
and giving them the ability
Hey, chat, how
to
many
go
people
for it.
right now are thinking of that scene in Billy
Opportunity
Madison? And I'm not even going to say
economy
which
means,
one.
Look, we don't have enough housing in America.
When
We
she's
have a
giving her
housing
answer.
supply shortage. And what that means, in particular for so many younger Americans, the American dream is elusive.
Is it
It's just
unplaying yet?
actually not
'Cause
attainable. So part
mine's
of my plan is to work with the
pausing,
private
but I know it's
sector and
not for
housing
everybody else.
developers
Oh, no,
to give
it's
them
still-
a tax credit,
It's still going.
to be able to
Okay.
partner with us as the government to build, and my goal is 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. In addition, to help people who just want to get their
What's
foot
your
in the
goal
door,
for
literally.
charging stations?
And
Tell me
so
what you're trying
giving
to do.
first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance to be able to just get in the door, and then they will do
We
the
said
work
lower
they need to
prices,
do
not make
to
things
save
get
and to
more
pay that
expensive.
mortgage
Yeah, this will
Exactly.
raise
and to
prices.
build wealth for themselves and their family. These are some examples of what I mean when I talk about an opportunity economy, and a lot of it has to do with just the community I was raised in and the people that I admired, who work hard, and deserve.
How
to
hard
have,
did you work with Willie Brown?
their dreams fulfilled because they're prepared to work for it.
She at
Well, did you
least
see
worked
her
for it back
gestures
then.
earlier?
At
She
least she
showed you
worked.
how hard she
You
worked
know,
with Willie
I'll give
Brown.
Kamala credit. She at least put the work in the '90s with Willie Brown. So,
Right.
and as the left as always reminds us that sex work is real work, so we should respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
can I have 25K for my mortgage that's already locked in at a fixed rate? I'd love that.
That's the other. It's the exact. All right. So if you're here's where the other. It's just like student loans, right? I worked hard and I helped my wife pay off her student loans, and we paid them off years ago early because I didn't want to have that much debt.
Right.
I feel like an ass because why should I have paid off anything when it was just going to get written off, right? And then we have all the people who didn't get student loans, who maybe like Slender could have got the GI Bill from military service,
That is what I did. And
or
then I
some.
realized the college sucked and dropped out halfway through.
Point being, like all these people who may have gotten a trade, went to a trade school, did an apprenticeship, and now are working as plumbers and whatever, making money doing that. We are going to be subsidized under the Biden's proposed student loan forgiveness. We're subsidizing all these jackasses who got useless degrees and
Yep.
Well,
couldn't
and everybody else who got useful
Yeah.
degrees. I mean,
Yeah.
you're paying for doctors and lawyers to get their student loans
Exactly.
forgiven.
I didn't tell them they had to go to an out of state college. Like, in-state tuition is a fraction of what out of state tuition is. Maybe instead of going to NYU, a private out of state school, you should have gone, in my case in Virginia, go to George Mason. Good for you. It's in-state tuition when I went to college was around 10 grand a year. And I think even now, with as much as inflation has gone up for its stuff, in-state tuition is around 16.
Right.
It's a lot of money, but out of state is 50
Yeah.
for the same students going to the same school.
And just to address something Bad Take said, I think you highlighted earlier about all that 25K is increased housing cost by 25,000 or more. No, it will be more because in order for this program to work, you have to spin up an arm that can manage the program. And the people who are managing the program need to get paid. So the program costs money. So the taxpayer dollars have to go to funding and maintaining the program, and that cost gets passed along to the consumer too. So it's basically going to raise the cost by 30,000 at least.
All right, here's the one scenario where I'll do student loan forgiveness. The one scenario. If they
Okay.
do it legally through Congress, they pass a law, and for every student that defaults and gets their loan forgiven, the money comes from the endowment of the university they graduated from. So like
Yeah.
all these people who went to Columbia and got $200,000 in loans and can't get jobs now, we'll forgive them their student loan. Columbia is on the hook to pay it off. Because Harvard, Columbia, all these institutions, they have 80, 90, $100 billion endowments that they don't touch. They make money on through investment, and it's just sitting there as the backstop for fuck. If they have made profits off guaranteed student loans for 50 years now.
Yeah.
40.
And
50
that's
years.
also been the reason that the loans have or that the cost of college has increased.
Yep.
Every time they have raised what the grants or loans max is, then the college
They
goes up
move
by
it
that
up.
cost too.
Isn't that
Same thing
shocking?
that is going to happen with the housing with the 25,000.
Yeah. So
And
if,
why wouldn't they? That's leaving money on the table if you don't.
Yeah, so if we make a trade-off where no one's actually, like, the government is not actually losing out, people are like, well, some colleges might go bankrupt. I was like, good. Maybe they shouldn't be giving bullshit degrees for unseemly amounts of
Survival
money.
of the fittest.
Yeah. Charlie Kirk's right. College is a scam.
Yep.
Unless you're
I agree.
going into a specialized field, there's no reason to be going to a 4-year college. And even
And-
then,
and-
why not go to community college for the first 2 years, get your basics out of the way, then go to a 4-year college?
And I'm
'Cause
not
even
saying
that
like
reduces
student
cost for
loan
you.
forgiveness is a good idea, but we could put incentives in place if there's job fields that need more people, right? Like
The state of
if there's a
Colorado is
shortage
actually
of
doing that.
bricklayers. Yeah, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and there's like what Brahma said, in Virginia, if you go to one of our community colleges and get your associates, you get guaranteed admittance as long as you had a C average, or it's a C, not even like, you don't have to. I don't want to play this down, but you don't have to be that great a student to get a C average. If you get an associate's with a C average, you will be guaranteed admission to any public college in Virginia. Any.
I mean, what do you
Because
call a med student who got all D pluses in college?
doctor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, now they won't even grade them because, you know.
That might hurt their feelings.
Yeah. But so yeah, seize the endowments, take the money that way. Because I would honestly be in favor of that and actually advocate for it more, because I want to break the back of the industrial education complex. Like, I think that would be a great populist gambit. Like, fine, we're forgiving not even partially, we'll forgive the entire student loan, but it's coming out of the colleges. Guess what they won't be able to pay for anymore? DEI departments and administrators and all this other stuff, because they won't have the money to pay.
Right.
So
I don't want to overwhelm people with her, but we'll show the answer to the next question because it fits so well with the answer to the first question.
Do
He
we have enough
talked
time
at the
for
debate
this answer?
and at previous appearances about turning the
40
page,
minutes left.
the page
Time
on the
for the
past.
word
And in
salad.
fact, here today in Johnstown, you're talking about a new way forward.
Yeah.
I think some people
you know,
have a question.
did you see the
given maybe
gesture
the
they've
current role
developed
as
for
Vice
turning the
President of
page
the
now
United
through
States?
Walter?
How
Yeah.
different you are from Joe Biden.
Treating
And
everybody
so I
like
wonder if there
kindergartners.
are one or two spots.
They're going to
What
start
are
flipping the
areas,
light
what
switch to get
ages where
people
you
to
would
quiet
say,
down.
I'm a different person.
Well, I'm obviously not Joe Biden. And,
That's
you know,
true.
I offer a new
I'm more like
generational
Jill.
leadership.
I get jobs the
So,
old-fashioned
for
way.
example, thinking about developing and creating an opportunity economy where it's about
God, the opportunity economy.
investing in areas
Yeah,
that
that she couldn't
really
explain in the
need
last
a lot of
question.
work. And maybe focusing on, again, the aspirations and the dreams, but also just recognizing that at this moment in time, some
worry,
of the
this
stuff we
one's
could
much
take for
shorter than the
granted years
first one,
ago,
too.
we can't take for granted.
So in political science, there's
For
a term
example,
called
another,
glittering generalities.
plan that I have that is a
You know,
new
it's like
approach
Reagan,
is
it's
to
morning in
expand the child tax
America,
credit
and you can get
to
away with that when you have a
$6,000
record
for
that people
young
like.
families
You,
for the first year of their
you
child's
usually
life.
don't do a glittering
Because
generalities
that is obviously a very
campaign
critical stage of development
when
of
you're
a child.
when you're
And
terrible.
a lot of young parents need the help to buy a car seat or a crib or clothes for their kids. And so my approach is about new ideas, new policies that are directed at the current moment. And also, to be very honest with you, my focus is very much in what we need to do over the next 10, 20 years to catch up to the 21st century around, again, capacity, but also challenges.
The interviewer's face is priceless. Look at him.
Really?
He's just like.
I know that was the
uh,
end of the clip, but that looked like how he was looking at her after she finished talking, and it was freaking perfect.
Yeah. And I'm starting to think that her whole opportunity economy is just the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Don't dream it, be it.
It's the underwear gnomes, the underpants gnomes from South Park. Phase 1, opportunity economy. Phase 2, phase 3, unemployment is at 2%. What's phase 2? You know, phase 2.
Yep. Bush wanted us to bring this screen share up real quick. He sent this to me showing what the current cost per pound of this cut of meat is, and what it was in 2021 was $1.25 a pound. Yeah,
Jesus.
Yep.
and that's not even a very great cut of meat.
What is it? Round?
Yeah,
Yep.
a round roast.
Yeah, and that is and that's at Costco. So when they get their meat pricing is usually on the lower end of what you might pay.
No,
Dude,
this
this
one's
is
at
why I do Good
HEB.
Ranchers now. I just
HEB?
get my meat mailed to me.
Oh, I thought that bottom right was a Costco logo.
Nah, it's HEB. But
Uh,
yeah, I mean, we all know what's happening in groceries and gas, all the things that they don't consider when they're figuring our inflation rates, which
The
is
Kam-
insane
the
because
Kamala
it's what we actually feel.
HQ Twitter account put out a tweet yesterday. It was like gas prices and food prices are dropping like a rock. Let's hear it and everybody was like, "Where are you shopping?"
Yeah,
Like, all right, so I will grant you gas prices have dropped a little, and this is cyclical because they have switched to the winter blend, which is a cheaper gasoline to refine, and people don't understand that. And the second reason, I don't know if people understand supply and demand. Demand destruction has taken hold. People can't pay for gasoline. People can't pay for refined petroleum products, so the price is coming down because there's a glut of it. If you look at you got to look at the world economy. China, their economy is tanking. Like they have started. Like there is significant drops in the Chinese manufacturing and demand base. If you look at OPEC, just did their meeting, and they said that they don't anticipate they anticipate demand to continue to fall because of the headwinds for the global economy. This is supply. There's two ways to bring price down. You can increase the supply of something, which makes the price come down, or you can destroy the demand for something,
right.
and that makes the price go down. The gasoline price coming down the way it has is not something to celebrate. It is a sign of weakness in the industrial economy. That means that factories that need oil and products related to it aren't buying. That means manufacturing around the world is not buying. That means people aren't driving because they don't have places to go or disposable income to do it.
Yep.
It is demand dropping. That is and they like to pretend we're not in a recession. This is one of the big, like, if everybody remembers in 2007 and 2008, oil and gasoline had the prices had gotten very, very high. Like it peaked around mid 2008, like around June, July,
Yeah,
where it
we
was
cleared
getting.
$5 a
During the
gallon
last
for a while
recession.
there.
Yeah, and that was a precursor, and then right immediately started the prices crashed right after the recession hit because nobody was buying anything, so there was no demand. We are in, like, they can pretend we are in an effective recession and have been for months.
Yeah.
If you look at
And
job
and it is
announcements,
because
For about
demand
2
has fallen
years.
out.
yeah,
Like nobody buys things that they can't afford to. And I I don't know about you guys, but my biggest bill every single month now is food. And that pretty much knocks out my burnable income for the most
Yeah.
part.
I make a pretty good living, and I'm now living paycheck to paycheck when I was stuffing away a couple thousand a month.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
I
Between
mean,
all the price inflation for insurance, both medical, auto, home, whatever insurance you want, I mean, I have. This is gonna sound crazy. I have a relative lives in Louisiana, New Orleans. They actually, because they have two teenager boys, both driving, and they
mhm,
got cars for both of them, fairly new but not new. 10,000 a month for all of their 10,000 a year for their
a
insurance
year.
cost.
Yeah.
That's for auto and home because they are they're in the New Orleans. They're right outside of the federal zone, so they do have to buy all their own shit. So $10,000 a year for insurance costs.
That's what a car used to cost when we were
Yep.
young. And those
And
cars are now $80,000.
he was my relative was super excited because one of the children is now going to college, and so he re-domiciled the car from New Orleans to the college location, and
Mhm.
it cut the cost $300 a month because it's not in New Orleans anymore. And he
Yep.
was like, he's like, it's not, as compared to 10 grand a year, it's not the biggest, but at least it went down.
But then let's remember the other side of it. Homeowners insurance has skyrocketed because of the cost of labor and the cost of materials. And when you have your homeowner's insurance going up, if you've got an escrow account, that means your mortgage is paying the homeowner's insurance. So then your mortgage is going up by a few $100s a month because it's got to keep pace with the local taxes and the insurance cost. So yeah, you see everything hitting us all at once. It's not just the groceries. It's not just the gas. It's everything. And gas here, I mean, everybody, people have been saying it was going down. 2 weeks ago, it was $2.99 here for just a few days. In that 2 weeks since I filled up at $2.99, it is now up to $3.57. So I'm not seeing much relief in the gas area, in the gas in this area. And that was the first time it had been under $3 in years. So, yep, it's going to be ugly if we can't pull out this election, because I don't think anybody can survive 4 more years of this, and it'll only get worse because her ideas are far more progressive than even Biden's. So the other thing that happened after the debate, and I think this is our last topic besides looking at the polls, Taylor Swift comes out and endorses Kamala just minutes after the debate. Do you think it moved anything? I know that there's tons of reporting that stupid link that she had, there were 400,000 people that clicked on the link. And that's an important distinction from what they're reporting, which is she got 400,000
people
registered.
Yeah, those were 400,000 people who were going to vote that way anyway.
Well, no, that doesn't say they registered. It says they clicked the link.
They clicked the link, and yet the
All right.
reporting has been that she got 400,000 people to register.
So here's what I would point out. Like, all right, so what is her current social media following on Instagram?
I don't know, 130
like
million?
130 million.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say let's say conservatively that 60 million of that is in the United States.
Okay.
And number one,
and how many of them are old enough to vote?
Yeah, that's number one, is how many are old enough to vote. And let's just, all right, so let's say voting age. I'm gonna give Taylor Swift all the benefits of the doubt. Let's say 10 million followers are voting age in the United States out of her 130.
Okay.
300,000
he's
out
doing
of 10
math.
million
I can hear him.
is point
Yeah, I
zero
hear it too.
is basically, it would be 3%. If that's what we're talking now. If we're talking about her entire Instagram following, we're talking like 0.0003% of her following, and that's just clicking the link, right? As we all know, there's a click-through rate and there's a buy-through rate, right? You know,
Yeah.
how many people watch our channels and don't click subscribe?
A lot.
Chat. If
About
you share
30
it
to
out,
40%.
yeah. So, and what counts for us in terms of getting monetization or any of those good things? We need them subscribed. So, if you click through, and I'm thinking of people on an app, you might just click what it says, look at it, and then okay, and shut down the page, right? You're clicking a link, you're not necessarily registering. It is interesting to me that they were immediately able to pull out how many people clicked the link, but they didn't release anything on how many people followed through and registered.
It's because nobody did.
Because nobody did.
And I'd love to know who the 27% of men were out of that. They were saying it was 27% men clicked on the link, which I don't know how they get those analytics.
That's how you say it.
I know.
Gay.
Exactly.
They're trying real hard to make people think that there are men out there that will vote for Kamala Harris. There aren't. Not real men. There's not a one.
A lot of soy.
The gender breakdown is more, it is more dramatic on the male versus female. People always talk about the female gender gap, but this election with Kamala on the ballot has driven the male gender gap. It's always been there, but it's normally on the conservative side. They'll win the male gender gap, males like 52, 53, 47. Trump tends to do better like 55, 45. And that was already pretty staggering. The latest polling has, like, trustworthy polling has Trump at like 59 or 60 to 40 on the male side. It is outpolling the female gender breakdown, which never happens. Like, normally women always vote for Democrats at a higher margin than males vote for Republicans.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris is uniquely more disliked as a female candidate than even Hillary was. It is crazy that they put this person out there. I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason that Obama didn't want Kamala to be the nominee. He's smart enough to know how this was going to go, and that she just isn't good for the male vote. She would drive a uniquely strong gender gap that would, especially in Rust Belt states and the Sun Belt states they need to win, that she doesn't do it. All right, yes, women vote at higher rates. Do you know which women vote at the highest rate? Married women
It's
vote at
true.
higher rates.
Yep.
And married women tend to vote more conservative than that. Now,
Much more.
if you mobilize, in theory, if you mobilize the entire cat lady population of the United States and got them to vote, they could
Oh,
probably
calm
vote
down, JD Vance.
But at the same time, after the Springfield, Ohio stuff, the cat lady vote may be moving.
I mean, I don't want my cats to get eaten. They piss
Oh,
me off on a daily basis, but they also take care of mice. So
but she's so brat.
Yeah. Hey, Mod Eric K's out there with a Rumble rant for $5. I'm here to chew bubble gum and listen to the bull, and I'm all out of bubble gum. Thanks, Eric. Hope you're doing
No,
well.
as far as the
Recovering.
brat thing goes, though, like if it weren't for the fact that I can barely afford groceries, I might vote on vibes. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who might vote on vibes if, you know, they're not having trouble affording things. But I think there are a lot of people who might vote on vibes any other time that will not be voting on vibes this time around. It's the economy, stupid.
Yeah, it's always the economy. No matter how much they want to tie this to anything else, it's still going to come down to the economy. And if the vote goes her way, then half of this country deserves what's happening to it, and the rest of us really don't, but we're going to have to live through it. And that sucks.
Well, luckily, we're the half that will survive what it's going through. Because
maybe.
Well, I mean, yeah.
At what point do you have to start selling off everything you've accumulated over your lifetime? And we're now at a point where you could easily not be doing better than your parents, and our kids will definitely not be doing better than us. I mean, that's the killing of the American dream at that point. This is the one of the first times in history that is probably going to be the case generationally. You are going to have a shrinkage of wealth rather than growing it.
Yeah.
But we've got one more clip to show, and then we'll get to the polls because we're getting a little bit long in the tooth on the episode. But this was JD Vance this morning, ending Dana Bash's career.
Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions. I'm happy to be here to talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this? So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes.
Dana, would you like to ask me
interrupted him on
questions
that.
and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me
So good.
on?
Yeah, JD Vance has been out there all morning just shutting them down left and right.
I mean, there was an echo, but I think that made it sound even better.
Yeah, sorry about the echo. I'm not sure why it was echoing, but I didn't preload that clip unlike the others because it happened just before the show. The others I preload, so this one's actually sharing a tab, which is probably the issue.
It's interesting how hard they go at it's so dramatically obvious. They go after JD Vance so hard on every little thing. They go after Trump so hard on every little thing. With Kamala, it's like, can you name two things? that people might
Trump
like.
was very mean. How do you feel about that?
Hey, Donald Trump is a racist a-hole. Can you comment?
Your response? I mean, they used your response how many times during the debate as the actual question for her?
I'm gonna have to question this comment.
Dana Bash is hot?
Mm,
I don't know about that one, Josh. To each
nah,
their own, but
not feeling it.
she's like a far too skinny bird.
Yeah,
Um,
and I get that. To be fair, JD Vance has said some stupid shit. Yes, a statement that applies to everyone who has ever lived.
and to
Right?
everybody who's
I
going
mean,
through as many interviews as he has over the past few months. Yeah,
yeah.
you're gonna trip up every now and then.
It is. I mean, and a lot of times I get where, at least since he's been running for office, I get what Vance is trying to say with with a lot of the comments. Maybe he wasn't as refined. He's gotten much better, and since, especially before and now, since he's been tapped, I don't see any issue with any of the stuff he said. I know that clearly he's being edited and taken out of context to try to create clips a lot of times. There's no way around that.
That's the other thing. I always operate on the assumption that what I'm seeing is it presented in the worst possible light.
Yeah. And Josh, we're just screwing with you.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
think she's hot all you want.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, whoever you want to hate F is up to you.
Some people think that Taylor Swift is hot. I do not.
Taylor Swift would be so insufferable to hang out around. I don't. I don't think I can probably put into words how much I would think she would be such a just vapid waste. If you
Yeah.
look at
I don't remember telling Bush that I hope his leg gets caught in a combine, but I may have said that. Or something similar.
Sounds like something you would say.
I mean, in a moment of anger.
What did I say about Trump
Which is
with some of his
90% of your interactions.
Yeah, what was my earlier thing with Trump? It might be hyperbolic, but it's directionally accurate.
Right.
Yeah, low spec. Taylor Swift brings to mind a line that Brahma used to say very nicely about a movie called Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah. She's a real carpenter's dream.
Yep.
Flat as a board and in need of a screw.
Yep. Unfortunately, I don't think that Travis Kelce is capable of doing that with a woman.
It's starting to seem like it.
He strikes me as gay, to say it again.
Yep.
I mean, anybody who wears like a Gucci tracksuit with a bucket hat to the U.S. Open. Yeah.
And got rid of the actual manly looking beard for whatever he's doing now, the pedo stash.
I will say that if I had to, I feel like his brother would be the more fun one to hang out with anyway, because when he's doing stuff, he's just getting drunk, being a funny offensive lineman type dude. And I'm glad that he retired because he was an Eagle, and I hate the Eagles as a Giants fan, so it's all good. Plus, I hate them even more after they did those ads.
Eric K is so right on this one. If you saw her walking down the street and she wasn't famous, you wouldn't give her a second glance.
True.
While you get the polling stuff, I wanted to ask you guys a question about some other news that came out this week that is probably the most dire thing that came out this week. Apparently, Blinken's out there, getting ready to start World War III by allowing our missiles to be launched by Ukraine deeper into Russia. At what point did this war become about Ukraine taking Russian ground rather than being a defensive war getting Russia out of Ukraine?
It happened this way as soon as Russia locked in all of the game. They are not getting anywhere in the east to get that territory back. They did their offensive push, was not this year but the last year, where they sent divisions of men to try to take back the eastern territory Russia had gotten, and they got mowed down. They got slaughtered. The Russia might have lost troops too, but I don't understand. You have to look at the average age of a Ukrainian soldier now is in the upper 30s.
Right.
They are
But
drafting people in their 60s.
but we literally just had Putin come out and say that he would have to escalate if anything like this happened. And then you've got Blinken and Biden out there going, "Yeah, go ahead and launch the missiles."
Because they're yeah, Putin is very clear, and he's right, because the Storm Shadow missile systems are not something that Ukrainian systems could operate. They don't have the technology, the systems, or the operators to do it. So if Storm Shadow missiles are launched from Ukrainian locations into Russia proper, it is being done by NATO operators.
Yeah.
And what Putin has said is, we will view this as NATO striking Russian targets and will retaliate against NATO in kind.
Yep.
And
You
that's
escalate into World War III. It may not
yep.
go nuclear, but you get into World War III and back Russia into a corner. Who knows what happens?
No, I don't think it's likely that it will go nuclear, but if this continues, China may very well join with Russia and be like, listen, Europe is attacking Asia.
Yeah.
We're
Yep.
getting involved. And then you've already got a world war. You've got the whole of Europe pretty much fighting the whole of Asia.
Yeah. It'll go from being a proxy war to being a live war.
And for everyone who thinks that this is a crazy scenario, granted the technology has improved, but it's not dissimilar from the world situation circa World War One, where you had tensions and alliances and the alliances may not have made any sense to you. If you go back in history and try to read who was aligned with whom in prior to World War One, none of it made geographic, economic, or any kind of sense. It was just this elaborate pattern of this country had a non-aggression pact or a mutual defense pact, and one guy, one Austrian archduke, getting assassinated by a communist anarchist set off the entire chain of events where millions of people died.
And it was
Franz
a war
Ferdinand,
between,
right?
yeah,
Yep.
Archduke Ferdinand. And it was a war between basically three family members that were in charge of three different countries.
Now Eric brings up another good point. BRICS.
Mm-hmm.
This is another great win for the Biden administration. We personally light speed and accelerated the BRICS financial system when we
And the
cut
destruction of the
Russia
dollar.
out of the SWIFT system as a result of, like, we had sanctions. Sanctions weren't enough. We had to make it so international banking couldn't even function in Russia. And so Russia already, and they had already been working on this. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They made a alternative banking system where it would run through this BRICS system instead of what is called the SWIFT system, which is the United States backed banking system.
Yeah,
And
I 100% agree with Eric K's statement there. The sad fact of the matter is, whether we like to believe it or not, we're pretty much the aggressor in the Ukraine conflict. Like,
Correct.
we started this fight, and
it not just
I hate
with
to believe it, but we are the aggressor.
Not just with the treaty stuff. When Victoria Nuland and the Obama administration decided to overturn a Ukrainian election in 2014
Mm-hmm.
because the Ukrainian president was perceived as too pro-Russian, the United States effectively did a color revolution in Ukraine to replace that president and install Zelensky.
Yeah, and Trump was right. What was the purpose of NATO after the fall of the USSR? I mean, because it was originally formed to combat the USSR, not Russia itself. And yeah, I mean, we've made this point on this show, and I've made it on plenty of other shows. Putting anything in Ukraine is no different than the Cuban Missile Crisis for Russia. I mean, you're anymore, all the weapons can reach everywhere anyway, but you have a buffer. You've got a neutral zone in Star Trek terms. Ukraine
Well,
was
you
supposed
have a
to be the buffer.
response window, and that response window shrinks drastically if you're within 200 miles.
Yep. So yeah, we've got to keep an eye on that going on, because that's disturbing that Blinken's out there saying crap like that, and that's just more horrible foreign policy from the Biden-Harris administration. All right, Chad, you want to walk us through the polls real quick?
Yeah, we've had a few polls drop this week. All right, so the main thing to look at is polls that took place with the debate was September 10th. So we have this cutoff here with the Rasmussen reports. New York Post did a poll. So all of these polls, either partially or all of the polls took place post debate. So we had New York Post with a likely voter poll showing Harris up by 3, 50, 47. Morning Consult did a 3,317 likely voter poll saying Harris up by 5. Data for Progress, Harris up 4. Tip, Harris up 4. Yahoo News, Harris up 4. Then we have what looks like an outlier with Atlas Intel with Trump up 3. And then we switch back to the ABC News Ipsos poll where Harris is up 4.
And MOE is margin of error, right?
Margin of
they
error,
have Trump
yep.
up 3 with this only being
A 2
off by 2.
Yeah, so he is outside the margin of error for this lead.
And oddly, they did not include Rasmussen's weekly poll because it updates every Thursday. And Rasmussen has Trump up, I think, 4 points after the debate.
Yeah, it is interesting because they haven't put.
They used the old one. They didn't use this week's.
Yeah, they'll probably load that. This is a little bit of gamesmanship.
Yep.
They probably didn't want that one loaded in time for the Sunday shows.
Correct. Because that would have put Harris 1.7 down to maybe statistical tie.
Yep.
Well, and this is all just smoke and mirrors so that the steal is more believable anyway, right? Like that's all this is.
Well, the issue is the methodologies of the polling. Somebody's right and somebody's wrong, because all of the polls that have Harris up are assuming an electorate that is definitively D plus, like meaning that
they're weighting the Democrats.
They are waiting that the Democrats will be a higher percentage of the people who turn out to vote than Republicans. This Atlas Intel is the only one that was basically doing an R+1 sample, meaning they think that in the breakdown of the electorate, Republicans will be 1 percentage point higher than Democrats, and then the rest independent. And Trump is winning independents. There's no poll I've seen where Trump doesn't win independents.
Rasmussen has him crushing in the independents.
Yeah. So the question is, since Trump is consistently winning with independents, it's a matter
that's who's
of
going to decide this.
Well, it's a matter of who turns out in the greater numbers.
Well, we know Trump's base will turn out.
Yeah.
You add to that the independents, and that's where you get the most likely Trump victory. Who knows how many of the Democrats are going to show up, because, I mean, no matter how crazy everything is in the news, there are actual normal voters who are really not happy with how Harris became the nominee or how Harris is out there spewing word salad.
You mean with an insurrection?
Yeah.
Now, we did also have the gold standard Iowa poll, which isn't even in this one because Iowa with Trump is not even considered a battleground state.
Right.
And
no, Iowa is going to swing for Trump.
Yeah, they put out a poll today showing that Trump is up 4, or it was yesterday. Trump is up 4 on Harris. What is interesting about that one isn't that Trump is up by 4. It's that this same time period, they put out a poll where Trump and Biden were tied. So 4 years ago, this same pollster polling Iowa, the same methodology, said that Trump and Biden were tied. Trump went on to win Iowa by 8 points.
Yeah.
So if the same polling or similar polling error is present, Trump is probably winning Iowa by, again, 8 to 10 points. If Trump wins Iowa by that much, it is really, really hard to see a scenario where Trump does not pull at least 2 of the blue wall states, by those 2 being Wisconsin and Pennsylvania,
I
because
still think Wisconsin is more red than people give it credit for.
it's the problem has been Evers. Since
Yeah.
Evers snuck his way into the governorship, they govern and rule like they have an 80-20
Gerrymandered
majority.
the hell out of things.
Well, they
changed
also
rules.
And
last
Madison
year
is always a problem.
last year they captured the state Supreme Court in Wisconsin is elected, and they managed to flip the majority from 4-3 conservative to 4-3 Democrat. And since then, they've been issued. That's why drop boxes are back in Wisconsin. They're ruling all sorts of shenanigans are good to go. So that's why I think I've talked about it. My feeling is Michigan and Pennsylvania, because of the Whitmer Shapiro factors, are more likely to end up safely Trump than Wisconsin, because Evers has no national political ambition. So he's a tool of the machine way more than Shapiro and Whitmer would be.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And Eric had said Trump needs to get on the ground and have more voting logistics and legal ballot harvesting. That's why Laura Trump is in the RNC at this point, the RNC chair. She is basically focused on playing by the rules that have been laid out. And we've got Trump's got, well, the RNC has all the, or the GOP has all of the lawyers ready to go. They've got everything that they can do. I mean, the disturbing thing is we even saw tweets this morning of stories that it's, oh, with this much more mail-in ballots, it may take days or even weeks to know who won the election. And that's where you have to be worried about the steal. Do you want to pull up Polymarket?
I think you gotta
Yeah.
Is it a super chat?
Yep, we got a Rumble rant from Eric K for $2. If Trump gets 120 million votes, Kamala will get 130 million, even though 160 million people eligible to vote. Yeah, there is that worry, but you still got to do everything you can to be above the margin of cheat as much as you can. Everybody's got to get out there and vote, and as early as possible. We're going to keep harping on that. If you've got early voting, get in and vote.
Yeah, your job is to vote as soon as early voting is done, and then
And
you spend the
convince
rest of
anybody
your
else.
time to get registered and get voting. Low propensity voters. The
People are just too
And
lazy to go to the
even if you
polls.
don't like it, remember, we're playing by their rules. We got to win the game playing by their rules before we can change the rules back to, fair.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
National Election Day with a holiday attached to it.
Yep.
Like a
All
lot
right,
of people didn't
so-
like when they introduced
Voter
passing to
ID.
football, but guess what? Every football team passes now. So just play by the rules.
All right, which thing do we want to click on and look at here at Polymarket? We've got
Just
Presidential
the presidential election.
Yes,
right,
Lily,
so-
you should vote often.
So presidential election, it says 50-49, but if you look at the actual bet rates, it's 49.9 to 49.4 is what you'd be paying. So they're rounding Kamala up to 50 and they're rounding Trump down to 49, which if you look at the points, that is a defensible rounding. 49.9 rounds to 50, 49.4 rounds to 49. But what this really tells you is even the betting market is effectively tied. So coming out of the great debate performance with Cackling Kamala, the betting market has shifted down. She was up
She was up to 52%. I think.
Yeah, she
maybe
was up
53.
53 to 47, 48, like leading into the debate.
Yeah. The debate did not give her a bump.
Yep.
Everything that we're seeing from Kamala, which is very little. I mean, she did the debate and she did the one interview. Well, one solo interview this week that we watched the clips from. It's not helping her. I mean, people are making up their minds about her, and their minds are telling them she's not capable of being the president of the United States. She's not capable of doing an interview. She's not capable of putting together a sentence. I mean, anytime that she sounds like she's actually saying something, it's been, something she's memorized. I mean, that's why you got the exact same answer in that interview as you got at the debate. She's all talking points. And most of those are lies that she has been caught up in multiple times now. I mean, within 72 hours, she flipped herself again on the gun ban. At the debate,
she
she
for it
said,
again?
yeah, she came out and flat out said, yeah, we need to ban assault rifles. I mean, nobody knows what assault rifles are, but
I love
you should
her
ban those.
explanation too. It's designed to kill a lot of people over a really short time. And then she said something about it kills cops and babies. And I'm like, oh my God, first off, every
No,
gun
that's
can
what
do
Democrats
that.
do.
Like,
Democrats kill cops and babies.
yeah, mostly. But I was like, what is this argument? Like this is how every gun works. I don't know if you know this, but they all work the same.
Yep. I mean, which is how they'll basically say that any semi-automatic gun is a weapon of war.
Yeah.
That's how, I mean, since you can't define what an assault rifle is, then it's just going to be, well, anything that's semi-automatic is too powerful to be in the hands of anybody.
Even revolvers at that point are semi-automatic. So we're back to black powder. Like, no.
I'll go get a cannon. Do we want to look at the Senate or the House? Or
Nah,
I don't think much has changed there this week, so I think that leads us into wrap up. Slender, what do you got coming on this week or going on this week?
Same as usual. Ascendant Arcade. A funny thing too. You know that nerf they did for Shadow of the Erdtree?
Yeah.
I beat Radon second try after that nerf. So easy now. So yeah, just usual gaming clips, highlight reels, random gameplays. That's about it.
Cool. Chad?
Yeah, we got the Ascendant Art podcast Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. So I think, are we doing Tuesday gaming coming back?
Yeah, there's no debate this week, so we'll be playing Party Animals or Jackbox or something.
Yep. So Ascendant Arcade next Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. You'll see most of the same faces there, but then that's not the political show. That's more the chill entertainment, just having a good time stream. So different set of entertainment that people
we slip into the political, but then we tell everybody to come watch this.
Yep, it's more of a tease.
Yeah, I usually try to cut them off when they bring the political talks.
I'm trying to do it to tease this show, because then I, say, and then you will talk more about it Sunday.
Yeah, it works.
Yep,
it's just called marketing.
It's what the good managers do. It's called playing the percentages.
Yeah. As for me, the debate stream did get me over 500 subs, so thank you to everybody out there that was there and everybody that subbed. Just need watch hours now, and then we can really do this as a monetized show. I think we're down to 500 or 600 watch hours, so the goal is to try to have the channel monetized before election night, because we will be doing the VP debate, if there is one, which I'm assuming there will be at some point, and we will absolutely be doing election night coverage. So if everybody can give a few watch hours, that would be fantastic. This week, let's see, got Late Night Culture tonight, possibly. Monday Night Meltdown with comics. Tuesday night, the gaming stream. Wednesday, no Christian panel this week, but it will return on the 25th. I think that's a Tuesday. and then Thursday night throwdown. Friday is Sun and Art. And we're getting ready to boot up bourbon and boarding again because the hockey season's coming. We got about 30 days until opening night. So we'll be getting the fantasy league put together and letting everybody know through the community tabs for me and Brian when that's going to be happening. So if you're interested in being in the bourbon and boarding fantasy hockey league, watch for that news, and we'll do a live draft. So
I got something to end on. It was this is a nice clip just to kind of sum up the week. It was at a 9/11 celebration. It was in Pennsylvania, and Kamala, Biden, and Trump all went to the same firehouse.
Oh yeah, this was funny.
Yeah. So here you go. This is Biden and Kamala walking in. The amount of not giving a shit in this audience when the president of the United States and the vice president. Here comes Trump.
Is that real?
Yes.
Yeah.
That
actually happened. Those are the firefighters. This comes on the back of Biden wearing a Trump hat.
So yeah, that's so for anybody who's feeling black pilled, there's your white pill moment.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Eric K, for the Rumble rants. Hope everybody has a great week. Here's the intro as an outro. We'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Broken system chained and tangled up in lies. Voices shouting, screaming in defeat. Politicians playing games under darkened skies. Hope lost in the dust of the street. Red and blue colors pouring from the sky. Debates turn to anger, the crowd gets loud. Punches flying in the blink of an eye. Truth buried deep beneath the shroud. Welcome to the bullpen, where we don't survive. These broken dreams we defend, trying to keep alive. Faces on the screen, flashing perfect teeth. But behind those eyes, just rotting greed. Politicians turn to whispers beneath. They all just get what they need. Whispering conspiracy.
Pinochet comes in late with Jamie Raskin is pushing Congress to ignore the Electoral College. 6 Republicans Friday signed on with all Democrats to agree to accept the outcome of the election. We know the polling market is legit. For $5. Yeah, that did happen. 5 or 6 Republicans went over to the dark side.
These broken dreams we defend.